fisherman and the fiddle. We are in a magical place with trees, birds, and lakes. My friend, the fisherman, my doll I'll take. My journey it goes where the wind blows. I am not lost at sea. The sea is lost in me. Boy, am I lucky to just be. Hey, I'm Josh Lacey. I'm a writer, director, actor, and I'm here talking about my film, Before We Sleep. Well, I wrote the original treatment for it 10 years ago as a teenager. And it was a completely different film. It had a different title. It had a completely different story. The only thing that's the same in this new version is the characters. And back when I wrote the original treatment, I did not have any knowledge of cinema. I had no idea about film. I had no idea about filmmaking. I had no idea about French Expressionism and, Tarkovsky and all these things that ended up influencing the film. That came much later. We originally shot a POC called Tent, which was a completely different film. And we were able to secure some funding from that, which it was private investor funding. So that really allowed me to just find my voice and see what I actually wanted to make. And so much of this has been, of making Before We Sleep, so much of that has been about kind of just going like, wait, have I got the freedom to do whatever I want? And this is kind of what came out. Well, Mason didn't come in until about a year and a half ago. So obviously I was in high school when I wrote the first treatment for Tent. And I would sort of, take little stabs at it through, maybe every sort of Christmas, once a year I'd have a look at it and get nowhere because I just had I had no idea what to do, what I was doing. I think I wanted to be an actor, and this whole writing thing was just something that I was trying. Mason came in a year and a half ago when I had been talking to an indie film company about potentially starring in a few of their films, and they wondered if I had an idea. And I'd remembered this idea that I had had years and years and years ago. And I went, look, I've got this kind of crappy idea. We could maybe look at that, but I might bring someone on who can actually write. Because, even a year and a half ago, I don't think I could write. That's only something that's very new. So I brought Mason on and said, hey, look, I've got this treatment. Do you want to have a stab at this as a feature, which was called Tent? And we had a stab at that, and we came up with something that was pretty cool. I think it was definitely more mainstream. It was more kind of generically marketable, post-apocalyptic, certainly different to what we have now. But we ended up not going down that route. We didn't want to do a feature. We wanted to do a short, and we wanted to just have the freedom to kind of do what we wanted to do and not get pigeonholed into a certain way of filmmaking. And that's where the private investing came in. Once we got that, we knew that we could write something a little bit different, write something that was more reflective of us as filmmakers. And we didn't know what that was going to be, but it ended up being this. But I don't think I had expected it to come across that well. It was just something that I kind of had in the back of my head. Robert Frost is my favourite poet, and Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening is my favourite poem. And the back end of that poem is, I have miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. That's how that poem ends. And maybe subconsciously those words kind of triggered something in me that that maybe subconsciously focuses on loss and death, and as a repercussion, the beyond. What happens next? What happens after this? Is just a genuine curiosity, and so that poem sparked that part of the film. The idea of where do we go after this? But also, when I think about Robert Frost, I think of black and white. I think of period piece. I think of era. I think of things like that. So I think it subconsciously was in the back of my mind while making it, and I guess if that kind of came across just in the interim, then that's really cool. So maybe talking about it now, maybe it wasn't super on purpose, but now that I think about it, it was there the whole time. So it makes sense that it resonates and comes across in the picture. We shot for 5 days. It was tremendously difficult. I had obviously lost all that weight in the 33 days beforehand. So my body wasn't cooperating with me as well as you would hope to be directing and acting in the picture, So the shoot was really difficult, and I had to have the people who were, my sort of technical inner circle, my heads of department, my first AD, they had to be firing, because there were just certain things that, although I was, mentally super clear and super crisp, my body was just at times failing me. So people like Georgie Pilling, who was our first AD, it's impossible without the work that she did on a budget as well, and through the shoot and through pre-production. My DOPs, Josh Walsh and Bo Selwood, were instrumental in just kind of getting things done, when I couldn't. Obviously Georgie as well, but there were a number of things that tonally that I was maybe a little bit absent for at times, only a few times, but moments where I had to have a break or something like that, and I had to just put my faith in them that they were going to pick the right shot, and they did every time, and that's a testament to their work ethic and their creativity and how much they believed in the vision and how much they wanted to get on board with that. It's a testament to them, and then every head of department across the board, they picked up where I was maybe lacking, and I was kind of putting all my energy into directing for as long as I could, and then I'd put whatever I had left into the performance, and then after that it was kind of, I hope we're all on the same page, because and I tried my best, and having Mason there is the co-writer, that makes things easy as well. We shot a lot in 5 days, and we had a lot of locations. We had a lot of set deck and set design. Serena Neal, who was the head of our art department, she just absolutely smashed it. We had a number of builds and pack downs in a number of different locations that were, for example, we had our tent build for our exterior tent. We had it built out in Numbumbar Valley. And then we had the interior of the tent built in a studio on the Gold Coast. And I was enjoying every minute of it, because I knew that deep down somewhere, although there were other things at play, these people had come together to realize my dream. And I was like, I've just got to enjoy it as much as I can. I feel terrible. I'm tired. I feel like I could actually just fall to pieces, but I just have to enjoy this. Working with the cast, Isella Connolly and Ron Schmick, like having heavy hitters like that, just blowing my mind that I was getting to direct these people. And the entire thing just felt like one big rev up. Just got to keep revving up and stay in there, because this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. There's a lot of, there is some physicality in it. Obviously Tom, who plays River, he's 9, and he's heavy. he's, you know, what, 45, 50 kilos or something like that. And I had nothing on me, you know, and first day was 3 or 4 hours of me carrying him through the woods. And there was a shock. My body really went, "You're not going to do this to me, are you?" I went, "Unfortunately, I am, Elf." But there were certainly times where I would put him down after carrying him 30 meters up a hill and feeling like I'm going to fall over and die. And I would have Bridget, my wife, coming up to me going, "Okay, yeah. And then I'd have, you know, makeup sort of doing their final touches, and I'd just sort of lean over into them without even noticing, and they'd go, "Josh, you all right?" I go, yeah, no, I'm totally fine. So it felt like I was going to die. I probably wasn't. I'm probably being dramatic, but the thing about this one was directing Tom Walker, who's 9, right, and is on the ASD spectrum, and he's brilliant, right? Got Isella Connolly, who's like a bona fide superstar in my book. She's like the ultimate pro. You know, she's done 3 seasons of Rock Island Mystery. She's a pro. She rocks up. She doesn't need much direction. Ron Schmick, who is like Australian silver screen royalty. He's been in this business for 20 plus years, and he's done like 500 shows. And then my wife, Bridget. You know, it's like directorially, it's the approach is just I couldn't even be the same person with all of them. I think I'm quite a difficult actor. Yeah, I'm very difficult. The more I can get from a director, the better. You know, I like all the information. I don't like to be sort of left to my own devices until I hear action, basically, and then it's kind of putting everything into practice. And so I definitely like to know as much information as I possibly can about the vision, right? I want to know how you're planning on editing it. I want to know how you're planning on cutting it and how things are going to join together, because it influences how I'm going to start a scene and end it, you know. What bugs me beyond belief is when you get a few things about how you're supposed to be feeling, and then they just call action. And you're like, I need so much more info than that from you, my friend. I need to know the specifics. So I'm clear with actors about what I want, because to me it's life or death. And I try to create an environment for the crew as well and the actors where they can see that it's life or death to me. And so they buy in. They buy in a different way to it just being a job. And I think that it creates an environment where they can create their best work as well, because pretty soon it becomes life or death to them, because a director is, obviously the creator of a project, a writer, whatever, but you're also the leader of tone. You're the purveyor of tone throughout the piece, and your actions lead by example. For me, it's all about being of service, right? So all the career paths, and filmmaking and acting is not my only career path. You know, I do a lot of things that I would consider passions that, in a roundabout way, I suppose, are also businesses or jobs or whatever it is. And I wouldn't do any of them if I weren't passionate about them. And for me, all of the common denominator amongst all of those things that I do is it's all about being of service and being useful and being able to leave something behind when you're gone that made a difference. Nothing is more important to me than that being my legacy. It's not just filmmaking. It's not just acting. It's not just making a movie. It's potentially, if you make it with the right intention and passionately and from the heart, it can be the thing that saves somebody down the line. And I'll never forget that when I'm on set, especially when I'm making my own stuff. Doing TV jobs and stuff like that, that's different. That's helping me climb the ladder so that I can make more films and have more impact. I would say if you're going to go into film school or acting school, which I don't knock at all. I think that there's definitely a space for being able to learn the technical stuff so that you can function on a set, you know. But what I would say is go in there with a clear idea on either having a clear idea on who you want to be as an artist before you go in, as to not be funneled into the masses and just becoming another clone. Have a clear idea on who you want to be in your identity. And if you don't have a clear idea on who you want to be in your identity as an artist, make sure that while you're in there, you're consciously staying away from just being churned out like everyone else, you know. For me, I'll always have that in the back of my head, like, just make sure you're doing your thing. Make sure your number one priority is figuring out what your voice is, yeah. And when you're in film school or acting school and you're 18 and you're still trying to figure out how to get to acting school because you don't have a car, you lost your license, you're working at whatever, figuring out your creative identity, it seems too hard, yeah? If it's too hard, don't go to acting school yet. Don't go to film school yet. Wait till you're older. Stalker. I think nothing influenced me professionally as much as Stalker. Nothing changed me as much as Fellowship of the Ring. Nothing makes me cry more than Warrior. And nothing excites me more than Ed Wood by Tim Burton and Johnny Depp. It's one of Tim Burton's sort of lesser known films. And it got trashed critically. Ed Wood, it is just this quirky little nutcase film with Johnny Depp that is just, every time I watch it, it just fills me with that, that buzz you get as a filmmaker where you're like, that is so someone's voice, and they didn't care about,
I want to make something like that.
Yes, they didn't care about shit. They didn't care about critically how it was going to perform, box office wise. They clearly made choices that were going to be perceived as silly or perverse or wrong, particularly by like a studio or something like that. And I just love that film. Tarkovsky, Tarantino, just because he's just, again, just a clear voice, a clear tone, a clear style. Love that. Peter Jackson, because I think what he did with the Lord of the Rings films, it will never be done again. And I think that must have just been the hardest job ever. Tim Burton, Tim Burton. The more work that there is here, the better. The more crew jobs we have, the better. The more supporting cast roles we have, the more leading cast roles we have, the better, obviously, just for the business here. But really, I would just hope to see the quality continue to expand its horizons in terms of what material we're putting out there. I think a lot of the international film festivals are kind of waking up to the fact that there are Australian filmmakers that have really interesting ideas, really singular voices, really unique perspectives on what it means to be a human being, and it comes across in their storytelling. So I'm hoping that the Australian, film scene in 5-10 years is nurturing those creatives, giving opportunity to those creatives to explore those options and the boundaries. And I hope over the next 5-10 years, we just keep getting opportunities to push the boundaries and grow this huge country into a potential, film hub.
Sweet, that's great. That was my last question. Is there anything else you want to say?
Can we flip it on you? I don't know.
Watch the film, follow the page.
Yeah. Down the barrel?
Yeah, if you want,
you can follow the official Instagram of Before We Sleep. It's at Before We Sleep Film on Instagram. Give it a follow.
Amazing.
Cool, man.
That's great.
So good.
Sweet, thank you so much for doing that.